It is Locked On NBA Game Night for the night of Tuesday, April 1st. Coming up, March is over. April Hoops is here, and it started off with a bang with not one, but two 50 burgers. Wait, even a 60 burger? Some huge performances Tuesday night, an instant 2 overtime classic with a crazy ending. Plus, the NBA got exactly what they wanted with Tuesday night's results.
When that final buzzer rings, you know it's time for Locked On NBA Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night, with insights only the hosts at Locked On can provide. It's the true NBA fans' one stop for all the action. Every game, every night. It's Locked On NBA Game Night. Tipping off now.
Welcome to Locked On NBA Game Night. Every game, every night in 30 minutes. Wes Goldberg here with Tony East. However, you're tuning in on YouTube or your favorite podcast app. Thanks for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. Got a jam-packed show for you today. We're going to get to Steph Curry going for 52 points, but we're going to start in Denver, where the Nuggets and the Timberwolves played a great game that came down to the very end. The Timberwolves win it in double overtime after a crazy ending. Nikola Jokic was sensational with a career-high 61 points, also a season high for any player, breaking De'Aaron Fox's 60 points for the season. Anthony Edwards came alive in the fourth quarter. This game had 21 lead changes and went down to the wire with 2 overtimes. Tony, just a ton of stuff to get to in this game. There was Jokic's career high, Edwards dominating in the second half, and then Russell Westbrook's huge mistakes at the end of the second overtime there. What do you think people will be talking about the most from this one?
Yeah, probably Russ's plays, unfortunately, which just kind of sucks because Jokic had 61 points and Ant was insane. Like Ant had what, 10 points after 3 quarters, right? And then 13 in the fourth.
Went to the
maybe
fourth
even
quarter
more
with
than
10 points.
Yeah, he had 34 by the end. And it wasn't even just that, like he was playmaking. The game-winning free throws came from a beautiful Ant pass to the corner when he got swarmed under the basket. Like when he makes those simple, that was actually a pretty good pass, but like more simple reads, he just looks so good as an offensive player. He combined the finesse and power. I'm talking about the wrong guy. Look, they were up 1 with the ball with a shot clock off. The Nuggets were. Christian Brown had it. He passed it to Russ. They could dribble it out. 2 guys could have dribbled it out. Russ takes a layup. It wasn't a hard layup. Russell Westbrook could make that layup, and he missed it. And then he fouled the shooter. I hate those fouls because the shot was already up and like it didn't affect the shot. But regardless, he did foul him. It was a foul. Like that is just as bad as of a last, whatever it was, 12 seconds as you can have. Either of those things go the other way, or you dribble it out and you probably win. And then you become the story of an epic night between 2 awesome players. That's how bad that sequence was.
Yep. A little curious that Westbrook was even in the game, right? I know Matt Moore, who does the Locked On Nuggets show for us, was on Twitter saying, hey, they should be starting Jalen Pickett. Jalen Pickett was pretty good for them in this one. He was a +4 in this game. He started in this one. Minnesota without Naz Reid or Dante DiVincenzo because they like to fight people. But yeah, I mean, it's sort of like you're right. They're going to be talking about Westbrook, and there are questions about Westbrook late in games in playoff situations, and this felt very much like a playoff game, right? Like there was a lot at stake here, at least just emotionally, and Denver really wanted to win this game, and they squander just this absolute masterpiece from Jokic. He had 24 free throw attempts in this game, 10 assists, 11 rebounds, 61 points, a triple-double. I don't know, does it count as a quadruple, triple something if you have 19 made free throws?
But he played 34 minutes in a row.
They're going to be talking about Westbrook, and I don't know what they do with him. The entire second half did not sit after halftime.
That's unreal.
Did not sit after halftime. But then again, look, we are going to focus on the Westbrook part of this, and it sucks because this was such a great game, and it was such a crazy way for it to kind of come down to the end there. There is the Minnesota part of this, though, where they are now 4-0 against the Nuggets this season. They seem to own them, but I can't come away from this game saying basically fouled out all their bigs, right? Julius Randle was with 5 fouls at the end of this thing. Rudy Gobert fouled out at the end of the fourth quarter. You just look up and down the Timberwolves roster and their depth chart in this game. It's like everybody had 4, 5, or 6 fouls in this game, and it was all because they couldn't stop Jokic.
Yeah, he was a machine getting those calls. 24 free throw attempts. Over half of the Nuggets' free throw attempts were just Jokic eating up fouls from whoever on that Minnesota team. And like that's part of the strategy in theory is like beat him up on the inside. I thought Gobert fouling out was going to be the reason that they lost, right? They had lost a lot of size there. They changed things up. They go smaller, and they were going to lose to other bodies if it went like Randall almost fouled out late, and then it was a McDaniels foul on that tip. Right? Like that seemed like a huge moment. That could have gone either way. Like there was so many of those little things because they were just hacking them like crazy. But yeah, it has been strange that even dating back to the series last year, which Minnesota won by that crazy second half of Game 7, how much better they've been than Denver this season. It doesn't feel like any crazy stylistic clash that should favor Minnesota to this extent, besides that Ant's really good. But it has, right? It totally has. And you can't even say that, oh, they've built this team with size that can guard Jokic. He just scored 61 freaking points. Like it's the opposite. They can't stop him at all. Yet somehow they can squeak it out, So you got to give them credit, especially like you said, without the guys that they lost because of their tiff, their brawl, their whatever with the Pistons. But I don't even know if this one's about like the stuff that the rest of those games were about. This was just like superhuman Ant laid and actually pretty good Julius Randle again, who's been awesome for like a month and a half now. And they got enough from Gobert. They got enough from everybody, right? You get enough from everybody when you score 140 points.
They 86. They had 21, Minnesota, 21 offensive rebounds.
Wow.
In this game. And I know that Denver was missing some guys, but outside of Jokic, this team is really small. They don't defensive rebound terribly well. They used to be Minnesota does here in this matchup in particular, right? Like this isn't Karl-Anthony Towns being able to help limit Nikola Jokic anymore. Although Julius Randle has had his moments. They even went small with Randle at the 5, and that was really interesting, and they had to do that after Gobert fouled out even more. But yeah, they made 7 more three-pointers in this game, took 50 three-point attempts in this game. Like that's the math part of this that Denver just keeps losing on, even when Jokic has 61 points and they dominate in so many different ways and they shoot 55% from the field compared to 47% from Minnesota. It's just Minnesota took more shot attempts and they took more valuable shots, even if Jokic by himself basically got to the line as many times as Minnesota did as a team. So let's talk a little bit more about the Timberwolves part of this, though, and what worked out for them. Mostly Anthony Edwards. He's got this on switch, Tony, that I don't know that anybody else in the league really has it. I have on my notes here just written Ant ? And then and I wrote that down right at the beginning of the fourth quarter, and now I scratched it out, and it just says Ant ! He goes into the fourth quarter with just 10 points scored, finishes the game with 34 points. Just an unreal fourth quarter and 2 overtimes for him.
Yeah, this was almost a very different show from us, right? He had the threes in the fourth quarter that was like, oh gosh, like those were just nasty back break and rise up shots, and he's worked on that so much. Like, doesn't he lead the league in makes or attempt? I can't remember. He leads the league in some crazy 3-point thing at his volume because he's just nuts at those shots now, and that makes it easier for him to get to the rim when he wants to. And it's like he's just kind of unguardable. And I was kind of debating with somebody recently. It wasn't really a debate; it was just kind of a discussion of like, do you consider Anthony Edwards a power player or a finesse player? And I was on the finesse side of that discussion. And like at some point, it doesn't matter, right? He's just so hard to stop because he's good at both. But I think that's what makes him so good to me, is that like there's some games where he's just like, oh, I'm being guarded by a guy who's rail thin. Boop, I'm going to push right through him, score at the basket. Oh, this guy's a little bigger and slower than me. Great, I can rise up. I can dribble. Like he can do anything against any kind of defense. And that's why it's perplexing, like you said, at first when he has 10 points after 3 quarters, because he can do what he did for the final quarter and overtime of this game. Playing 50 and a half minutes in altitude is maybe the best he had also. Like what a remarkable game from him. And when he plays like that, that's why the Wolves can make the conference finals, even when their season has not felt anything like last year's.
They're still in the play-in mix, but they're up to 7 now in the East standings. Memphis is falling. The Golden State Warriors are moving on up, and the NBA get to that after this here on Locked On NBA Game Night. Today's episode of Locked On NBA Game Night is brought to you by PrizePicks. Baseball season is in full swing, and there's no better way to get in on the action than with PrizePicks, the best place for daily fantasy sports. With PrizePicks, you pick more or less on at least 2 player projections, and if you're right, you can win up to 1,000 times your cash. Whether it's strikeouts, RBIs, or first inning runs, PrizePicks keeps every game exciting. This week, I'm picking Aaron Judge for more than 1 home run and Shohei Ohtani for more than 1 stolen base. It's that easy in 60 seconds, and when you win, your payout is quick, safe, and secure. I always take advantage of Taco Tuesday, where PrizePicks offers discounts on select player projections for even more value. So download the app today, use the code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 in the A for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. Thanks again for making Locked On NBA Game Night every game, every night your first listen. The best way to support the show is to subscribe on YouTube and on your favorite podcast app. Let's go to Memphis, where Steph Curry and the Warriors got a big win over the Grizzlies. They were playing their 5th game on the road, beat the Grizzlies. But the story here was Steph. 52 points, 12 made three-pointers. He carved up the Grizzlies defense, especially attacking Zach Edey in the also all the Steph Curry magic things. It didn't always have to be attacking Zach Edey in that drop defense. Sometimes it was just dribbling the ball up the court and making an impossible three-pointer. It's always fun when he uncorks one of these performances, Tony.
The mute button, Wes. The mute button. It gets us all. I just had my Russell Westbrook in transition fouling a three-point shooter moment. I didn't even do that on purpose. I joked with you. I would make that joke, and I didn't even mean to do that. Yeah, Steph's nights like this are the most fun in the league, right? Like, no, even when, like, Jokic just had 61, and it was better statistically. Like, that's amazing. Like, Steph getting 12 threes through the net and just running around like a crazy person and stressing out a defense all night is, like, just the most fun 50 there is in the league to me, because every possession is you're just tense, like, ooh, is he gonna do it again? Ooh, they can't stop. Ooh, and then it's just insane, right? And so when it happens, you just are in awe. And it's funny because late in this game, it was like the rest of the Warriors getting them across the finish line, which I thought was actually a big story of this game, is how much Jimmy's helped them in the clutch. But these Steph games are just insane. Like, he had the team I cover, he has more 50-point games than the entire franchise, because he can just have games like this where it's like, oh, he made a bunch of threes. Sorry, Memphis Grizzlies, you guys played okay. You just lose. Like, you just lose. I'm sorry you showed up, but that's just how it goes.
I also think the part of the story, too, from the Warriors was the defense, right? The defense really locked up, and I've had questions about what they can do against teams that can really pound them in the paint. Jaren Jackson Jr. ends up fouling. I thought Jaren Jackson Jr. was really going at Draymond quite a bit in this game, but in the fourth quarter, that defense tightened up overs. And since the trade deadline, the Warriors are number 1 in defensive rating in the league.
Wow.
Despite some questions about their size, they're a little bit thin at different positions, but they do a really good job at the point of attack and walling guys off, picking guys up at half court. And I hesitate to compare them to the 2022 team because that team won the championship, but it feels similar in that I had the same exact questions, and at the end of the day, it didn't matter. And then they just got teams, when Steph Curry is going like this, they just get teams to play their style of basketball. And that style is really taking up the most space between the 3-point lines. And so if you're a Warriors team that doesn't have a lot of size and rim protection, well, it doesn't really matter because you're kind of set. The terms was awesome in the fourth quarter, and they've been awesome for a couple of months now.
Yeah, Draymond isn't gonna win Defensive Player of the Year because the rest of the season happened before the trade deadline, but he has been like wrecking everything, right? For a better part of that. And the fact that they can always
sure he's not going to win Defensive Player of the Year?
No, no, I'm not sure. I think it will probably win him over there.
Leader on FanDuel.
Is he the leader? He's the leader now? Well, good job. good job,
Yeah.
sports bettors. I think you guys should be right. We'll see if they actually end up being right. Yeah, this game's kind of display why. I mean, he wrecked this game up too, and against Jaren nonetheless. But like having two of him, Jimmy, and like all of their medium to good defenders on the floor at all times between like E Santos and Pods is better on defense this year, and Moody's defending well, and Kuminga's got some size even though he's up and down on defense. Like that's awesome. That just gives you such a nice floor defensively, and Steph makes a lot of shots. You can set your defense a lot. And you've got a great captain who can win Defensive Player of the Year back there. Like it really clicks and works, and that does make it easier for these guys who are, let's say, up and down on offense to play in transition or play in the open floor, play with Steph's spacing at its maximum value. Mm-hmm. And you've seen what that did in clutch time today, right? So it's really, I think that's a really important thing for them and something that could grit its teeth in the playoffs. We've seen them be awesome on defense with Draymond in the postseason before.
So the win now gives the Warriors that 5 seed. They're also starting to pull away from Minnesota and the Clippers a little bit here. They're 18-2 now with Jimmy Butler and Steph Curry in the lineup. And most importantly, with this win, if the playoffs were to start today, Tony, Lakers-Warriors as the 4-5 matchup in the first round. The NBA, everybody in the NBA front office is doing backflips right now.
Except for me, I want them both to win. I want Bron and Steph both to move on, Wes. I would be very sad if they play each other in the first round.
Steph and LeBron, that's what we want.
Pretty much every first round West series is going to be like just awesome, right? So that is obviously the one that's going to get the primetime slot every night. Like if I'm on Pacers Pistons, just put it at 4 a.m. Like just rerun Lakers Warriors over and over. It's not that, it's just how it's going to go. And I think that'd be very fun to see, but I also want both those guys to do well because they're on good teams that can actually do something now. So give them a chance to advance and play each other later.
Let's go to Joe Mullinex for the Grizzlies perspective.
Again, lost a basketball game and have fallen all the way down from the 2 seed to the 6 seed in a matter of months. No, this is not an April Fool's joke. I wish it was. I'm Joe Mullinex of Locked On Grizzlies, and I have to say, this one at least felt different, right? The effort was there, the offensive execution, John Morant looking like a superstar. There were some reasons for optimism. Heck, Zach Edey looking like a lottery pick, looking like a Rookie of the Year contender. He's not going to win the award, but this is the Zach Edey that Grizzlies fans have been hoping to see with his rebounding, his double-double potential. However, Steph Curry looking very much like the Hall of Famer that he's going to be with a 50-burger on the heads of the Grizzlies. Memphis simply cannot defend right now. Scoring all these points is great, but if you're not able to stop the other team from scoring, you're going to lose more often than you win. Memphis is falling down the playoff stand.
So Tomas Lisalo takes over the Grizzlies here. Did you notice anything new about Memphis? Do they look
not
different
really
to you? Me neither.
I think that like that Lakers game, Ja's doing a little more pick and roll, but they're still like playing pretty similar with how much of that baseline cutting stuff they got going on. And like all the Grizzlies people I follow are laughing because a big complaint about Taylor Jenkins was like Jaren and Ja were never on the floor when they were like catching up in the fourth quarter or anything like that. Well, look at this. Last 2 games, neither of them were on the floor when they're catching up in the fourth quarter or down 10 in the fourth quarter, whatever it is. Like, turns out a lot of these organizational issues are just that. They're organizational. I don't actually know what's going on in Memphis, but I have been getting a kick out of the people reacting to how that has gone.
Yeah, they started the game off with a couple of pick and rolls right away, and I'm like, oh, okay. But they've also been trending more in pick and rolls lately. So, yeah, I didn't really notice a whole lot. And I don't know. It's been 2 games with this guy coaching. They don't have any time to practice or install anything. They've been very open about that. But John Morant looks really good. And I don't think that changes win or loss. And I think that may be the most important thing. And Jaren Jackson Jr. is having a great season. But at the end of the day, they just couldn't keep up with these Warriors. All right, last thing here before we go to a break. Suns, Bucks. It's a battle of 2 teams that are both in kind of a sad place. The Bucks beat the Suns thanks to a big night from Giannis. Meanwhile, things keep getting worse for Phoenix. Here's Brendan Clean.
Lose to the Milwaukee Bucks 133-123. First game of a do or die East Coast road trip. And that's about how you would expect it. Suns basically for dead, more or less, as their hopes of the 10 seed were already crashing to the ground. 39 points for Devin Booker. Not the most efficient night. Continues to just have no chance from three-point land for whatever reason, but cleaned up his turnovers in the second half. Colin Gillespie, that 1-2 punch of those two playmakers is working fairly well for the Suns. But when Giannis Antetokounmpo was on the court, they just frankly had no chance. He was a plus 23 when he was out there. Big difference from last week when the Suns beat Milwaukee at home is Giannis made his free throws. And so 37, 11, and 5 for him. Other guys like Kuzma, Rollins, Lopez all chipping in as well. The starting lineup just piling it on. The Suns just don't have the guns with their poor defense to make this happen. So this is, unfortunately, without KD, going to be the recipe unless something really unforeseen happens and they can buckle down on defense.
So a few words there from Brendan that I want to highlight. Crashing, no chance, twice. Piling it on, poor defense, unfortunately. Just a lot of negative words coming from Brendan there. But hey, at least you got Colin Gillespie. You got that going for you.
I love when I have to go to an 8-man rotation to sneak into the play-in with my super expensive team. Things are great for the Phoenix Suns West. Great, I say.
Not so much. There's a few players who are playing great lately and demanding your attention. We'll tell you who they are, including one who might have been the best acquisition of last offseason. Talk about that next here on Locked On NBA Game Night. Today's episode of Locked On NBA Game Night is brought to you by our friends at Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. When I started using Monarch, I realized just how much I was spending on food delivery. Now I budget smarter and save more. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without any stress. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNBA for half off your first year. Thanks for making Locked On NBA Game Night every game, every night your first listen. Best way to support the show, like and subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on your favorite podcast app. Let's get to our next set of games here, Tony. Both Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner had 24 points each to lead the Magic over the Spurs. Here's Philip Rossman-Reich from Locked On Magic with more.
This is Philip Rossman-Reich, the host of Locked On Magic, as the Orlando Magic defeat the San Antonio Spurs 116-105. And this game was not as straightforward as the matchup where the score might make you think. Instead, this was a grinded out battle, the kind of game when the Magic had to find a way to impose their will. That's what the Magic did throughout November and December. They may not have been able to make shots, but their defense ground you into a pulp until they could find the energy to get by you. Magic haven't had that for much of the last 2.5 months, really the last 3 months until maybe the last few weeks. But Orlando found it again, trailing by 10 in the third quarter after a lethargic first half, and they're playing an opponent that lets them make those mistakes. They came storming into the fourth quarter, got the lead down to 5 by the end of the third quarter, took the lead in the fourth quarter, and never looked back. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope scored 23 points, made 7 3-pointers. Caleb Houston with some big plays. Jonathan Isaac with some big plays. Franz Wagner with huge plays throughout the course of the game. The Magic didn't play their best. And at this point in the season, they just got to get whatever wins they can get. The Magic took care of their business and got a win any way they could. That hasn't always been the case throughout the course of this season, but it was the case Tuesday.
Could not beat the Knicks. OG Anunoby led the Knicks with 27 points in an easy win. Here's Alex Wolf from Lock.
Sixers 105-91 in a game they probably should have won. Maybe got a little closer than you would have liked in the third quarter when the Knicks kind of let their foot off the gas, but that was okay. They put right back on actively trying to lose right now. So if the Knicks had lost this one, it would have been pretty disappointing. But OG Anunoby continued his recent stretch of great play, 27 points, 7 of 16 shooting, and only shot 2 of 9 from 3, but got to the free throw line 13 times. Just goes to show how best game since coming back from his ankle injury this season. 14 points, 14 boards in just under 21 minutes. And Landry Shamet catches fire from deep. Unfortunately, not the most prolific three-point shooting performance of the night, thanks to Steph Curry, but 6 threes made for Landry Shamet in 33 and a half minutes, almost 34 minutes for 20 points, a season high for him. Great win for the Knicks. On to the next one.
And in our triple double, he adds 15 rebounds and 10 assists to lead the Trailblazers over the Hawks. So, Tony, we get to those 3 games. You texted me before we started recording that you wanted to highlight those 3 guys: Ben Caro, Quentin Grimes, Deni Avdija. We might need to put OG Anunoby.
Look, okay, I'm starting with Deni. Does anyone realize what Deni's done since like March got here in the NBA? This game against Atlanta, I think, was his 7th 30.7 rebound game in there. It might be 8th. I'm bad at counting, apparently. Like, he's been crushing since March started. Before this game against the Hawks, by the way, where he just had a 30-point triple-double, he was averaging 23.4 points, 9.8 boards, and 5.2 assists since the start of March. What? Like, this dude makes like $12 million and just got traded last year. Like, that's crazy. Paolo is averaging almost 30 points a game since the All-Star break. On like good enough efficiency where these jokes about him being an analytics disaster aren't funny anymore. He's been hooping. Double the big win. Quentin Grimes got traded for Caleb Martin in a second. He's averaging 22 points a game since getting traded. What is going on? Why is anyone talking about how good these guys efficiency are? They're playing crazy good. Deni's been insane.
Deni's been awesome, and he's been Portland's best player for most of the season for a team that's been way better than we thought they were going to be. And I teased it going into the break that, are we talking about maybe the best acquisition of last offseason? Think about it, right? Like, Mikal Bridges to New York, he's been okay. Karl-Anthony Towns to New York, okay. It's fine. They gave up a lot for all of those guys, though. So when you consider what you gave up for the player that you got, Portland gives up a couple of second-round picks, or a couple of first-round picks. One of them was in this draft. Ended up being Bub Carrington that was the 14th pick there. So they give up that pick, a middle first-round pick, a future first-round pick, and they get a guy who, to your point, is putting up multiple 30.7 rebound games and has been the best player on their team for the balance of the season for a team that is exceeding expectations. Like, I think Deni Avdija has been the best acquisition from last offseason.
No, it's got to be Paul George, right? That's a steal of a max contract there.
Oh, right. I forgot about him. I forgot.
It's funny with Deni, too, because, like, they traded 2 firsts for him, and I thought, like, well, he's a good player, to be clear. Like, a lot of that trade value to me felt like, okay, this guy has, like, one of the best contracts in the NBA. And that's still true, but it turns out he's actually, like, amazing, right? And he started pretty rough for Portland, right? At first, it was like, oh, man, with this bad team, would rather have the lottery pick. No. They would rather have Deni. He's very good.
Finally, mission accomplished for the Raptors. The tank is nearly complete. Here's Sean Woodley from Locked On Raptors with more.
Eliminated. Sean Woodley here. Quick thoughts on the Toronto Raptors getting blown out by the Chicago Bulls on Tuesday night in a game that seals the Raptors' fate. They will be out of the playoffs for the 3rd straight season. This was obviously going to happen. They are nowhere near the playoff mix with now 6 games left on their schedule, and the Bulls finished it off with a win tonight. Ultimately, though, I think there's a lot of reason to feel all right going into the offseason for this team. Of course, they made the trade for Brandon Ingram. On top of that, you have, for example, Jacoby Walter really coming on in his rookie season. 5 of 5 from downtown in this game. He's a guy to dream on big going into next season. Emmanuel Quickley was fantastic in this game. Didn't play a ton of minutes, but 17 points, 9 assists on 7 of 14 shooting. Continues his really good run of play. He's at 23 points, 5 boards, and 7 assists per 36 minutes since finally getting healthy January 31st. He's been very solid and gives the Raptors a very interesting lead guard going into next season once they incorporate Brandon Ingram. This team is going to have designs in the playoff next year. There's going to be expectation. For now, they're just running out the string, baby. I'll have more on Locked On Raptors tomorrow. Be sure to tune in.
Say one nice thing about the Raptors, Tony.
They were down by so much that it's not embarrassing that they only got 2 minutes of Barnes and Quickly in the fourth quarter. Not embarrassing this time. Thank you, Raptors, for not making us laugh at your tanking. I like a ton of the guys they've just like sniped off the scrap heap this year. Jamison Battle's pretty good. Orlando Robinson always I've thought is pretty good. They did good at all their draft picks. Like, I don't know if they'll be playoffs good next year, but like they're getting good value out of low assets, and that's how you slowly climb out of the situation they're in, which isn't a bad situation. To be clear, it's just what you got to do.
I like the draft class. Jacoby Walter, Jamal Shed. Those are two good players.
I agree.
It feels like those guys can contribute to whatever it is comes next.
Kobe White.
That'll
man.
do it. That wraps up Locked On NBA game. What?
Kobe White. Can we just say Kobe White? 28 points. Goodbye. Thanks. Good job, Kobe White.
Also, this guy also balling. That wraps up Locked On NBA Game Night. Every game, every night. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast. For Tony East, I'm Wes Goldberg. This has been Game Night. Thanks for hanging out with us.